What are important aspects of a vehicle for you? Is it sustainability, space, fun driving dynamics, good looks, or even practicality? Well, this is the new Kia EV9. Let's see if it has all of that. Before getting started, yeah, the scenery looks a little different. That's because I flew all the way to South Korea to check out Kia's newest flagship electric 3-row SUV. And this is a big deal, being the first non-luxury 3-row electric SUV on the market for seating up to 7 passengers. And it moves Kia towards their commitment to become a future leader in sustainable mobility and their goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2045. And from the look of the EV9, the future is now. It rides on Kia's E-GMP platform and utilizes Kia's 4th generation battery technology. Its boxy shape, big wheels, short overhangs, and 7.8 inches of ground clearance give it a brawny look. And the vertical taillights and digital pattern lighting on the tiger nose grille give it some sci-fi vibes. I like the look of the EV9. It's boxy, has lots of angles, and it almost looks familiar, like somebody took a Kia Telluride and slapped a RoboCop filter on it. What's cool is that the EV9's wheelbase is 200 millimeters longer.
Mike, we need conversions, buddy.
Sorry, in South Korea. 7.87 inches longer than the Telluride, which should translate to some good interior space for occupants, but we'll see about that later. And despite its blockish appearance, the EV9 has a drag coefficient of just 0.28, which is achieved through a 3D sculpted underbody cover, air curtains integrated into the front bumper, and aerodynamic wheels. And since we're talking wheels, let's hop in and get them on the road. So I want to preface this by saying this is a Korea spec EV9. This isn't the US spec, so some stuff may be a bit different. Just want to throw that out there. But for right now, I just want to give it some juice. All right, feels pretty healthy without crashing into the Kia in front of me. The EV9 will be offered in rear wheel or all-wheel drive. A standard and long-range rear-wheel drive model will be offered with a 76.1 or 99.8 kilowatt-hour battery and will have 215 and 201 horsepower respectively. No, that's not a typo. The model with the bigger battery gets less power, but that long-range battery is good for up to 300 miles of driving, while the smaller standard rear-wheel drive battery only gets up to 223 miles of range. The long-range all-wheel drive model has the same 99.8 kilowatt-hour battery with a dual motor setup that delivers 379 horsepower and 700 newton meters of...
What's with the newton meters, bro? Come on.
Sorry, it's the jet lag, I swear. 443 pound-feet of max torque, and that'll get the EV9 to sprint from 0 to 60 in around 5.3 seconds, and it'll have about 270 miles of range. The all-wheel drive GT line model gets a bump in torque and will have 516 pound-feet, and I wonder if there'll be a GT model. So yeah, of course, this being an electric vehicle, it has instant torque, but I gotta say, this definitely does feel like a heavy SUV. This is the all-wheel drive version, so the battery pack is 99.8 kilowatt hours, and that's a pretty hefty battery. But if you do decide to get the all-wheel drive, it definitely has some quickness getting this big SUV up to speed. The EV9 will have fast charging capabilities up to 218 kilowatts, and 15 minutes of charging can provide up to 239 additional
Kilometers in the land of freedom? I don't think so.
148 additional miles, and that fast charge capability can get the Kia EV9 from a 10% charge to an 80% charge in about 25 minutes. Boom. If there's nowhere to go while charging, you can position the seats in relaxation mode so you can sit back, relax, recline, and watch all the KBB videos you desire. No, seriously, you should subscribe. The EV9 will also have an integrated charging control unit, which includes vehicle-to-load functionality. This lets customers use up to 3.68 kilowatts of power from the EV9 to power such things from laptops to electric grills. So right now, going around the turny section of these back roads in South Korea, you do feel the weight shifting from left to right when you're going into turns. It's nothing substantial, but keep in mind this is a heavy EV SUV. The steering is interesting. It gives a little weight and a little bit of feedback. So I think that's a pretty nice feature, especially being an EV and it's electronically assisted steering. But it feels good that it gives you a little bit more feedback. So we got a roundabout right here. I'm gonna make a sharp right and a sharp left, and yeah, heavy SUV. And there are a couple drive modes. You got eco, normal, sport, and my drive, which is, you know, customizing your own stuff. Let's throw it into sport mode, and throttle response is a lot more abrupt and prompt. And if you're ever going off-road, they also have a terrain mode, which gives you a few options. You get automatic, snow, mud, and sand. As heavy as the EV9 is, it still has some fun potential, as if you were driving a high-powered Kia Telluride, which is great. If you're looking to tow with your EV SUV, the max tow rating for the all-wheel drive model is 5,000 pounds, and for rear-wheel drive, it's 2,000 pounds. Braking in the EV9 feels good. You could come to a complete stop relatively smoothly. There's also paddles on the back of the steering wheel, which control the regenerative braking, and you also get a one-pedal drive mode. The suspension, it does feel a bit soft, but like I said, keep in mind this is the Korea spec, and one of the PR guys, he actually told me that the suspension for the Korean market is a bit softer, but it actually doesn't feel that bad. Going over speed bumps, however, you feel a lot of weight under you because that front end and the back end comes down relatively fast. One thing that definitely stood out when we were initially driving was the interior noise pretty much doesn't exist. It's relatively quiet in here. I think they did a great job with the sound deadening. We couldn't even hear an ambulance that was pretty much right in front of us. I mean, that could be a good or a bad thing, but if you're taking a nice long road trip and you want to drown out all the noise that's on the outside, this does a great job at doing that. The driving position is comfortable. I'm enjoying the inboard and outboard armrests, and I have a nice commanding view of the road. There's not a lot of hood to look over, and over my left shoulder and right shoulder, visibility is quite good. And you also have the in-gauge cluster cameras to assist you for your blind spots. Some additional standard safety tech on the EV9 will include forward collision avoidance assist, blind spot warning, lane following assist, and highway driving assist. So let's try out the highway driving assist feature. So you just set it right here, set your speed and distance, and all right, it actually works quite well. It's keeping me nice and centered in my lane. It's giving me a good distance from the car in front of me. And the most important thing that I've noticed with this system is that it doesn't surge you forward and slam on the brakes when you're in stop and go traffic, which is great. I think Kias do a great job with their highway driving systems, and it really does give the driver a lot more confidence to just sit back and relax and not be fatigued after a really long drive, especially coming home from work and you're standing on your feet for 8 hours holding a camera. But I mean, it's doing a great job right now. The North American debut of the EV9 will have available Advanced Highway Driving Pilot, which will support Level 3 autonomous driving that uses 15 sensors, including 2 LiDARs, and this will give the EV9 a full 360-degree field of view for obstacle and collision avoidance. Keep in mind the system only supports Level 3 autonomous driving, but still needs to be approved by the US government. But if or when it does, you can sit back and relax in your electric living room on wheels. So if you're looking for an all-electric SUV with 3 rows, good safety tech, and is comfortable, well, the EV9 pretty much covers all the important stuff. So yes, driving is important, but what about the inside? Well, I can tell you the interior of the EV9 looks and feels great. Ingress is easy with wide opening doors, plus there's plenty of space. Kia's pledge for sustainability is shown through their use of recycled, bio, and sustainable materials throughout the cabin, and the thoughtful use of space and flat floors, which is made possible thanks to that longer wheelbase and low-mounted battery pack. So obviously I fit just fine in the driver's seat. There's plenty of adjustability on the seat. It goes pretty far back on its tracks, and I have good leg room, good headroom, And the steering wheel feels really good. There's some electric adjustability with it, which is pretty nice. That's a good touch. And overall, the cabin looks nice. There's good materials up top. Even on the door panel, I like the two-tone thing they got going up. It doesn't look boring at all. And they even have fabric material at the bottom. I mean, overall, this is a pretty good spot to be in. Along with comfortable seats, there's also a massage function which could help for those long hauls. There are various storage spots around the cabin, a wireless charger, 12-inch digital gauge cluster, and 12-inch infotainment screen, but there's no available wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, charging won't be an issue because all 3 rows have USB-C charging outlets. So here's what's really important, how someone that's 6'4" fits in the second row of the EV9. And as you see, I have plenty of space. This seat can actually go pretty far back on its tracks. And I got great leg room, I got great headroom, but let's really see how I fit in the third row. And even behind myself, I still have some room. And if I scoot the seat up just a little bit, yeah, you can see I got decent leg room. And the third row has a good recline on it thanks to these buttons right here. And you also get a USB-C outlet. I mean, with air vents, comfortable seating, and leg space and head space, this isn't actually a bad spot to be in as well. I could do a road trip back here just for a little bit because I like driving. As far as cargo, behind the third row, there's 571 liters of...
Mike, that sounds like a lot of Pepsi, but I have no idea how big that is in terms of cargo space. Give me them cubic feet!
20.2 cubic feet of space. And with the second and third row folded, cargo volume increases to 81.9 cubic feet, or 2,320 liters. Okay, that's the last one. And if you're curious, there is a frunk. See? Look, there it is. Good for storing sodas or leftover Korean barbecue or something. Now I'm hungry. The interior of the EV9 delivers good space and practicality with a little subjective give and take, such as the tri-zone climate control. Great to have, but the HVAC controls in the first row are split between physical switches on the dash and a digital screen between the gauge cluster and infotainment screen. Below the infotainment screen, the center-mounted haptic buttons look great, but take some force to get some input feedback. The intuitive shifter frees up space on the center console, but hides the vehicle's on-off button. The comfortable seats that have a recline while charging feature would be great if there's an optional material for those mesh headrests. And the second row has great space and storage behind the center console. But what about the swivel seats that were shown in the EV9's prototype? Well, check them out. Here they are, because sadly, these won't be coming to the US. All things said, I do believe the important interior qualities of the EV9 outweigh its quirks and shortcomings, and it still makes for an exceptional 3-row electric SUV. The pricing isn't available on the EV9 just yet, but when it does become available and you want to trade in your Telluride, go on kbb.com and get your car's value. That way you can put it towards this 3-row EV SUV or maybe even a 2-row. Go on kbb.com, click the link above for more details. We don't know the exact trim breakdown, but great options like 21-inch wheels, 360-degree camera, remote smart park assist, panoramic roof, Meridian sound system, head-up display, and second-row captain's chairs will be available options. The EV9 is expected to debut in the States towards the end of 2023 and will be the first Kia EV to be assembled locally in West Point, Georgia at the beginning of 2024. The EV9 is definitely going to spark up some interest for buyers looking for that 3-row all-electric SUV. So if style, space, sustainability, and practicality are important to you, well, you should check out the EV9.